flash, flesh, man, men.
Flash, flesh, man, men.
We're going to take a look at one of my students and how he took an initial pronunciation test and then a second pronunciation test to check on his progress. What you're going to hear is his original audio as well as his retest. Now, a word of caution, I want you to be realistic. This is only a 2-week span, so it's not going to sound perfect, but there are some noticeable changes that I think show he is well on his way to improving his pronunciation. Look to the end of the video while I'll read through the whole test.
Sit, seat, hit, heat, feel, feel, mitt, meet.
There are two main things that I noticed with this first sample. Firstly, the placement is really high. If you're not sure what placement is, definitely check out this video. But what I'm hearing is like an E sound as opposed to like an E sound. So again, it's just going to sound a little bit too much here. You can really feel it. You know, when you say E and you feel that in your mouth or in your jaw, that's a sign it's too high. So we want to relax it, get it a little bit lower. The second thing I noticed is that connecting to a dark L sound for both the E and the I sound, the short I sound, can be a little bit tricky. For instance, in that feel versus fill for a dark L sound, the key is making sure at the back of your tongue is high and the front of your tongue is down. So for more information about that, you can see this video. Let's see how this sounds after 2 weeks.
Sit, seat, hit, heat, feel, feel, mitt, meet.
So I'm hearing noticeable improvement in the placement for the E sound. I'm not getting as much of that E. I'm getting more of an A, which is great, a lot more relaxed, more resonant, lower in the throat. I do want some continued practice with this E sound though. I'm also really liking the linking from these vowel sounds onto the dark L. I think it's sounding much more natural. Again, in that example of like feel and fill. Let's take a look at our next group of sounds, like look and luke.
Full, fool, pull, pool, look, look.
Out of all the words he said, the one that I think sounds most natural is the word look, look. But in general, and I'm sure you noticed it, a lot of these vowels are sounding pretty similar. Part of the problem is the placement is too high for both of these. So you want to again make sure that the sound is really projecting from your throat. Also, just some mouth position notes for this, for the sounds. So for instance, in a word like good or book, you want your lips to be straight, not round. You could probably also have your mouth a little bit wider. The back of your tongue is high and the front of your tongue is down. So again, like look, look, or book, book. Contrast this with the oo sound, oo, where you can see my lips are a little bit rounder. The back of my tongue is high again and the front of my tongue is down. So the big difference is really the lips, making sure your lips are small and round. Let's see how these sound after 2 weeks.
Full, fool, pool, pool, look, look.
I think there's some noticeable improvement here. I really liked how he read full and fool, full, fool. Notice how fool has that dark L sound at the end. Notice also that it breaks into 2 parts, right? Ooh, ooh. This is because that oo sound is considered a long vowel. And when a long vowel connects with an L, it's going to break into 2 parts. It's like ooh. Speaking of L's and dark L's, I think there's a lot of improvement with this dark L sound. Like we mentioned before, you want the back of your tongue high, front of your tongue down. Again, like in a word like full or in a word like fool. The next sounds we're going to take a look at are the O sound and the A sound. Just some quick notes about mouth position. O sound is a diphthong. We don't want to make it too tense at the end. It's like oh, oh. Notice how my mouth starts a little bit more open and then closes with slightly rounded lips. Oh. Versus the aw sound, where my mouth is wider, but the back of my tongue is high and the front of my tongue is down. Aw. Compare, for instance, low versus law. Let's hear how he says these.
Low, law, boat, bought, coat, caught, walk, walk.
Placement remains an issue here, but in addition to placement, I think a couple other things would help. Firstly, I would recommend holding your vowels longer. English is paying attention to vowel sounds. If people ever have a hard time understanding you, most likely it's an issue with the vowels. So I would suggest holding your aw sound, for instance, a little bit longer in a word like law or in a word like caught. At the same time, especially true for diphthongs, don't drag it out too long or don't make it too tense, especially at the end of the vowel sound. So for instance, a word like low doesn't need to become like low. It's just low, low. For a lot of my students, cutting off like the last millisecond of the vowel can be really helpful for getting some of that more natural sound. Let's see how he did the second time he took the test.
Low, la. Boat, bot. Coat, caught. Walk, walk.
Still some room for improvement. For instance, woke and walk sounded a little bit similar to me, but I did like the improvement on coat and caught. I thought that sounded great.
Hey guys, if you're finding this helpful, by the way, let me know by subscribing and liking the video.
Okay, two more groups of sounds to look at. First is the a and the sound. This is like, for instance, a word like flash and flesh. For this a sound, what you're doing is you open your mouth wide and raising the middle of your tongue, but the back and the front of your tongue should be down. Again, like a. Second sound is going to be for instance, in a word like flesh, flesh, where your mouth's going to be a little bit more closed and you're raising the back, middle, and front of your tongue. For both of these sounds, as always, the placement's coming from your throat. Let's hear the first version.
Flash, flesh, man, men, axe, X, sand, send, Texas, Texas.
First thing I want to note is that for the a sound, I think the tongue might be a little bit too low. Make sure that the middle of your tongue's high enough in a word, for instance, like flash, or for instance, sand, which also brings up our second point as well. When this a sound links with a nasal, so a sound like n or m or ng, it's going to break into two parts. So for instance, sand. It's not going to be sand or sand. It's sand, sand. Do you hear that? And do a heavy breath out of your nose right before that N. Let's check out these sounds again.
Flash, flesh. Man, men. Axe, X. Sand, send. Texas, Texas.
Sometimes I think the a sound could still benefit from having a higher tongue. Raise that middle of your tongue just a little bit higher. For instance, on a word like flash, flash. You don't want it to become flesh. But in general, I think this is sounding much better. It's a lot easier to identify the difference between the words. So for our last group today, we're going to be comparing the S sound and the A sound. S sound we already saw. The A sound is another diphthong. You're going to start with your mouth wide like and even the front of your tongue down, back of your tongue slightly lower. And then as you close your mouth, you're going to feel your tongue rising a bit. It's like A. Be careful as always for placement. You don't want this to become A. Let's hear how he says it the first time.
Sell, sail, well, whale, tell, tail, men, main, pen, pain.
Three main things I want to point out here. Watch out for the sound to not make it a diphthong. So for instance, in a word like sell, sell, you don't want to make the vowel change at all as you're saying that. You know, it doesn't need to be like CL or sail. It's sell. Speaking of dark L's, I think sometimes the L becomes a little bit too strong. I feel like I'm hearing some contact between the tongue and the top of the mouth. And again, for the dark L sound, that is not necessary. Compare, for instance, sail and sail. The second time has the dark L. So again, we're going to generally hear the second one more often. The last thing I would say is, of course, related to placement. Placement still sounds a little bit tense. For instance, on a word like pain. Pain. You don't want this to turn into pain, pain. It's more pay, pain. Same thing for main. How's this sound the second time?
Sell, sail. Well, whale. Tell, tail. Men, main. Pen, pain.
Once again, the dark L has really improved a lot. You may be seeing a theme. I think over the 2-week span, his dark L's have gotten much, much more natural sounding. I even think the placement for the A sound is improved as well, though of course this is a concept that I would encourage practicing more. Sit, seat, hit, heat, fill, feel, mitt, meet, pull, pool, full, fool, look, luke, low, law, boat, bought, coat, caught, woke, walk, flash, flesh, man, men, axe, X, sand, send, taxes, Texas, sell, sail, well, whale, tell, tail, pen, pain, men, main. Having perfect pronunciation is great, but it actually doesn't make you sound natural by itself.